Okay, let's talk a little bit about VLAN security and design. There are attacks on VLANs. Uh, there's different types of VLAN attacks on our modern switches, and the VLAN architecture simplifies network maintenance and improves performance, but at the same time, it also opens up doors to allow abuse or our systems to be compromised. And it's important to understand some of the general methodology behind these attacks and the primary approaches to mitigate them or to avoid them. We have what's called VLAN hopping. The default configuration of a switch port is dynamic, set to dynamic auto. By configuring a host to act as a switch and form a trunk, an attacker can gain access to any VLAN in your network. And also, because the attacker is now able to access other VLANs, this is called VLAN hopping attack. They were able to get into a VLAN, and from there they can move about onto your network. To prevent a basic switch spoofing attack, you need to turn off trunking on all ports except for the ones that are specifically required for trunking. So once you've set your trunking up, you'll go in and you will shut those ports down on your switch. You'll go into that interface or that interface range and you will type in shutdown. That way it shuts those ports down and they're not available for someone to hop on and gain access to your equipment and to your network. Another way that your VLANs can be attacked is what's called double tagging attacks. And the double tagging attack takes advantage of the way that your hardware on most of our switches they de-encapsulate those 802.1q tags. Most switches perform only one level of the 802.1q de-encapsulation. And what this does is it allows an attacker to embed a second unauthorized attack header in the frame so that after removing the first and the legitimate 802.1q header, the switch forwards the frame to the VLAN specified in the unauthorized 802.1 header. That way it sends it to your attacker. And the best approach to avoid the double tagging attacks is to ensure that the native VLAN on your trunk port is different from the VLAN of any user port. So you do not assign your native VLAN port to one of your user VLANs. You keep it separate in and of itself. Some applications may require that no traffic be forwarded on a layer 2 at layer 2 between our ports on the same switch so that the neighbor does not see the traffic generated on another neighbor. And keep in mind you have multiple VLANs on the same switch. So this keeps the switch VLANs separate even though they're on the same switch. In this case, there's the use of what's called the private VLAN edge feature. It's also known as the protected ports, and it ensures that there is no exchange of unicast, broadcast, or multicast traffic on our ports. Some of the characteristics of the private VLAN edge are you have a protected port that does not forward any traffic to any other port that is also a protected port except for control traffic. So data traffic cannot be forwarded between protected ports at layer 2. Forwarding between a protected port and a non-protected port proceeds as usual. And then the protected ports must be manually configured. So this is something that you have to do. And in order to configure this private VLAN edge feature, you enter the command switch port protected, command in the interface configuration, and then to disable it, again, you do the no switch port protected. You can do the show interface to see that this has taken place. Now let's talk a little bit about our VLAN design, some of the guidelines we can use that also help with our security. By default, your Cisco router comes out of the box with VLAN 1 set as your default. So what you need to do is move all ports from VLAN 1 and assign them to not in use VLANs. You need to shut down all unused ports. You need to separate your management and your user data traffic. You're going to change that management VLAN to a VLAN other than VLAN 1, and the same goes for your native VLAN, because remember, by default your management and your native are VLAN 1s. Make sure that only devices in the management VLAN can connect to the switches. The switch should only accept SSH connections. You need to disable auto negotiation on your trunk ports, because remember, you want to do that manually. Do not use the auto or desirable switch port modes. Finally, keep in mind that voice traffic has very stringent quality of service requirements. So if your user PCs and IP phones are in the same VLAN, each tries to use the available bandwidth without considering the other's device. And to avoid this conflict, it's good practice to use separate VLANs for IP phones and data traffic. So keep that in mind. And good luck with your VLAN.